Language is a powerful and important topic. We all know this. From when writing was first popularized thousands of years ago, the style, format, word choice, and tone of writing have all played crucial roles in the sharing of information between people, communities, and even nations. And as the world becomes more and more interconnected through the information age, the barriers between cultures and inevitably languages are being torn down more rapidly than policy or institutions can handle. The most important of these institutions, and the most widely impacted by societal shifts, is the world of education, specifically English education. Contrary to when the US started having compulsory education, student bodies are now composed of students who identify with many cultures and speak many dialects. Plainly, a system designed for use in a white, generationally rich, and homogeneous population is, unchanged, being applied to a much more diverse population, in which the brand of English spoken varies widely between ethnicity, geographical location, and class. Right now, Standard American English is the only acceptable dialect in schools, while other dialects such as African American English and Southern Vernacular English are not accepted and portrayed as unfit for the professional world, only to be used at home. Generally, when I refer to dialects as a general term, these two dialects are the main minority ones we're talking about. Separating a child's dialect usage and forcing them to use only one in school, as Vershawn Ashanti Young puts it, belies the claim of linguistic equality and replicates the same phony logic behind Jim Crow legislation, which held that the law recognized the equality of the races, yet demanded their separation. Through this talk, I want to present a threefold solution to this crisis in English education. Yes, the implementation will be difficult. Yes, the practicality of this solution needs to be fleshed out further. Nevertheless, we must start somewhere, and providing possible solutions points educators and administrators in the right direction. The three aspects to the proposed solution to the flaws of English education as it relates to dialects are these. 1. Teacher education must ensure that teachers have strong social ethics and ideologies about English education. 2. Different dialects and their structures must be recognized, taught, and encouraged in the classroom. And 3. All aspects of diversity must be taken into account when dealing with dialect education in the classroom. First, for English teachers to succeed at teaching diverse topics, they must learn to appreciate and embrace diversity in the classroom, relating to dialect as well as culture and background. English teachers Cristina Alfaro and Lilia Bartolome propose a system of ideological clarity, in which, by critically studying dominant ideologies and how they manifest in schools, prospective teachers can develop critical thinking relating to ideologies. If educators are to validate and lift up their students' cultures and dialects, they need to be taught in their education first. Values such as appreciation, sensitivity, and awareness need to be in educational curriculums, hopefully to be translated into direct lessons with students. Once these values are instilled into our teachers, they will be equipped with the necessary skills to teach the validity of multiple dialects, which after all is the end goal here. Second, in addition to having ethics and a good headspace and all of the good precursors, educators need a format in which to present multiple dialects. There are two possible answers here to teaching multiple dialects: code switching and code meshing. We can make a Venn diagram to describe these, as they share aspects but also have qualities of their own. Both code switching and code meshing teach the structures of multiple dialects explicitly and ensure students are able to write in their home dialect and standard English. Here's where we find the difference between the two. Code switching requires that once students understand the differences between dialects, that they only use standard American English in their scholastic and creative writing. The theory is that the professional language of the world will always be standard American English, and so we must equip our students accordingly. On the other hand, Code meshing allows students, once they understand differences in dialects, to mix them together, forming a whole new way of writing. Keep in mind that even the middle of this Venn diagram is not portrayed in schools today. The reason I advocate for code meshing rather than code switching is that, as Mr. Young puts it, people's so-called non-standard dialects are already fully compatible with standard English. To make things more complicated, dialects aren't all black and white. Students may come from multiple backgrounds and cultures, and therefore mix and match. For example, vocabulary from Brooklyn with the typical grammar structures of Southside Chicago. Young states that code switching requires folks to parse out the parts of their dialect that are standard and attempt to codify those into a form of acceptable public expression, and then parse out the parts of their speech and writing that are non-standard and codify those into a form of private, informal expression, which is very problematic for students who come from multiple backgrounds. By teaching code meshing and encouraging students to embrace different aspects of their home language and pure standard English, educators can make students feel more comfortable, reduce students' stress, and help them to create new, beautiful forms of the language. Third, and this is more of a side note or a disclaimer to the whole thing, but when applying different dialects to the classroom, other aspects of students' backgrounds and culture will naturally come into play. A classroom that does not teach multicultural subjects yet and address content from many backgrounds, dialect education cannot simply be inserted. A good way to keep track of all of the necessary elements to a multicultural classroom, and one that promotes usage of multiple dialects, is the Green Apple acronym, created by English teacher Donna Miller. Green Apple stands for gender expression or sexual orientation, religious or spiritual beliefs, ethnicity and race, economic class or socioeconomic status, name or family, age, place, perception of belonging, language or discourse community or dialect, and exceptionality and subject. Teachers must keep in mind all of these elements of diversity when designing lessons, grading classwork, and physically teaching in the classroom. And all of these must be addressed, because if a student feels that, for example, their race and dialect are being recognized in school, while their socioeconomic status and religion are not, this disrupts the safety and the environment of the classroom. I'll close by emphasizing that, the safety of the classroom. It's not something I've addressed this far, but it should be a goal for every teacher to maintain a space in which students feel like they can flourish and grow as a learner. We already know this. Likewise, growth can only occur when a student feels safe and secure. So if we do not validate our students' cultures, and especially if we do not validate their dialect, essentially their language, our students will not feel like they can safely explore new ideas and grow as a learner. On top of all of the progressive social change that can come from dialect education, it can allow students to learn more effectively in the English classroom. If you take nothing else away from this talk, I want you to remember two things. First, language is important and cannot be ignored, especially in education. And second, for students to learn successfully, they need to feel accepted by their teachers and programs, and validation of language and dialect is a massive first step toward ensuring acceptance in every classroom. Thank you.